This episode is brought to you by Rev1. Rev1's mission is to help entrepreneurs build great companies. As you navigate the waters of business entrepreneurship, you don't have to go it alone. A strategic partnership with Rev1 connects innovators to the talent, customers, space, and funding you need when you need it. Get started with Rev1 Startup Studio by visiting rev1ventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is rev1ventures.com. 614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My goodness, I'm blessed to be in Columbus, Ohio, and blessed to sit in my favorite seat as host of this wonderful podcast, and I have a doozy for you. I always have great guests, but this one you really want to lean into. I'd like to welcome my very special guest today, Terracina Maxwell of Arvo Tech. Terracina, welcome to the show.
Elia, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to speak with your audience.
Yes, awesome. Always a good time to talk about emerging companies in the Columbus startup ecosystem. But before we jump too far into what Arvo Tech is and the problem that you're solving, we need to get to know who Terracina is. So who is Terracina Maxwell, and how did you come to live in Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I grew up in much more rural area in Ohio, up close to Akron. Went to University of Akron. I got my undergrad in accounting. Actually decided at that point didn't want to be an accountant, so I came down to Columbus for law school. And that was, in the late 90s. And the city grew on me, and I love it. Glad to be here. Worked at Ernst & Young for 8 years, right outside of law school, specifically in their tax credits and incentive business. I learned a lot. Learned a lot about just how, like, the importance of incentives and why Congress puts them in place to incentivize certain behavior among, specifically in the area that I work, business owners. So it was a great experience working there. Got to work with great people at Ernst & Young. And then after about 10 years there, Brent Johnson, who actually had experience at Deloitte, he hired me as part of a smaller regional accounting firm to build their incentives and credit practice. We spun off at that point what is now Arvo Tech to help take these tax credits to small businesses. And so that's how that's a little bit of my background as far as my experience, also what brought me to Columbus. And like I said, really like it here.
All right. So the Terracina Maxwell story goes a little something like this. I want to be an accountant. No. I want to be a lawyer. No. I go to Ernst & Young to work in tax credits. So what happened? What pulled you back in to the world of numbers, the world of taxes, and essentially the world of accounting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Funny way to put that. I think for me, what drives it is really understanding the difference that this can make for business owners. So especially when I was at EY, we would work with, as you can imagine, really large organizations that appreciated these tax credits, right? But when you get to work with the small business owners that, whether it's $5,000 or, $150,000, it makes a difference for them, right? So it's taking the background that was very spreadsheet focused, right? Very, make sure the form is filled out correctly. And now you get to see how that actually impacts the individual owner and what it means for them to get this money and to be able to, we hear great stories. I mean, that's part of what I like about what we do. The business owner that gets to pay their employees better because of the tax credits that are available, or whatever it is, right? And so I think for me, it's become much more an opportunity to help communities, to help business owners than it is necessarily around the numbers. Although that's the fun part, is just bringing a bag of money and saying you're already doing what Congress is wanting you to do as far as your, these different employment tax credits. Let us help you easily take advantage of them.
All right. Well, with that value proposition, you got me interested in tax credits. Okay. So I'm ready to learn about tax credits because they have real world consequences. Something like, hey, taking advantage of the right tax credit can help you pay your workers better. So that's a perfect segue into understanding what tax credits are. So, what are tax credits?
Yeah. So they're incentives that are put in place by Congress that are trying to drive certain behavior. So if you just think about incentives in general, right, you put them in place because you want somebody to do something or not. So we work specifically within the employment tax credit space with different tax credits. The one that we started and kind of our core tax credit is this work opportunity tax credit that Congress is trying to incentivize business owners to give an opportunity to folks that might not necessarily even get an interview or have a seat at the table, right? So you think about groups that are folks that are disabled or maybe that are on food stamps, right? Or whatever category, ex-felons. So often those folks get overlooked either out of fear or just preconceived ideas. They don't necessarily say, hey, I want to take a chance and hire somebody that might have a bit of a different background than what I have. Congress is saying, hey, give these folks a chance. We'll give you some money for that, right? And so there are tax credits like that they put in place. And in the way that, I mean, I don't know how technical you want me to get. I can kind of geek out on that side as well. But, a tax credit is just that. We all pay taxes. And so the credit piece is just, hey, let's lower your tax liability because you're doing those things that Congress is trying to incentivize you to do. So that's the nuts and bolts of how it works.
Yeah, and traditionally, you needed to be loaded. You needed to be a big company with lots of money to hire very expensive accountants and very expensive lawyers to dig into that kind of information and help you find those tax credits. And that's why, audience, you typically hear of these large firms taking advantage of every single rule in the book to their advantage. But what it sounds like, and I don't want to jump the gun, well, I'll actually let you say this and deliver the value proposition of Arvo Tech, all right? So what is Arvo Tech, then? What is the problem that you're solving? And then who do you serve?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for teeing me up like that. Like, we get excited to take these same tax credits to small businesses. So you mentioned that, most large organizations, I mean, you think about the large organizations, whether it's retail or it's, fast food or, the Walmarts, the Targets, the McDonald's, think about, they have teams of people that are helping them take advantage of these tax credits. What we've seen is that small businesses don't have that same opportunity for multiple reasons. I mean, part of it is they don't know about it, so they don't even know to ask the question, is there something out there? Part of it is when you're a small business, you wear so many hats that it's just one more thing on your plate. And trying to accomplish anything just feels like, I understand I could get money from this, but it's a burden to even try, right? So what we've seen in the market, and like I said, we specifically are targeting employment tax credit. So when COVID hit, and there was this, a lot of people have heard about the ERTC, right? The Employment Retention Tax Credit. There's this opportunity that was really focused. Congress focused that on small businesses, and we saw small businesses wake up and say, "What else is there? What can I do? Are there more dollars available for me to run my business that large organizations take advantage of and don't even think about, but I never knew were available to me?" And really, that's what we're excited about, is that we said, all right, let's democratize this, right? Like, let's take this, and how do we help small businesses not add one more thing on their plate or take a lot of time to get these tax credits, but put it on a platform that makes it simple and easy for them to understand and to take advantage of. And so really that's our passion. That's what we get excited about. This is, why we do what we do, is try to help small businesses have that same advantage that the large organizations have.
All right. So Terracina, let's talk about, barriers to adoption, because you talk tax credits, you can see the eyes glaze over. And then you
Right.
talk about Arvo Tech and making it simple and maybe a little bit of fun to figure out what's available to you as a business owners. And the glaze kind of rises. But the glaze immediately comes back when you talk about how overwhelmed these business owners are and the burden of trying.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. 614 Startups is not tax credits, obviously, but we're doing a giveaway. And we're like, we'll give
Yeah.
you X number of dollars. All you have to do is do these three things. And most people don't even enter. What
Right.
do you find as you talk to small business owners and you try to educate them that this money is out there, that barrier to even trying? How are you helping your customers break through that?
Yeah. This is part of the reason why we have um, determined the importance of working with partners such as large payroll partners, right? And so, finding ways to integrate and work with platforms that small businesses already have to use, right? Everybody pays their employees. Everybody has to have a payroll platform. Everybody, that's just a part of running a business, right? And so having those kind of integrations where you can fold it right into a process that they already do and something that is already part of their day to day, so that that education becomes, look, we're going to give you information that all you have to do is make a hiring decision, yes or no, right? That's all you have to do. We're going to do the rest of it on the background, all the way from processing the tax credit to giving, whatever the credit, whether it's, the proper form at the end of the year for you to put on that tax return, or it's an amended 941, whatever it is, we're going to take that load off of your shoulders and help you, so that all you have to do is file your taxes, right, with this information. And part of it too, a big part of it is, are they even going to trust us to do that for them, right? Um, and so that's where I care deeply about that. I care that what we're representing to the IRS or to our clients is that you actually do qualify for this. We're not going to give you any hype or numbers just to get you excited. We're going to make sure that this is done correctly. I mean, like I said, my experience, I have deep experience in this. Co-founder Brent also does, and we've hired tax attorneys in this space specifically for this reason, because if you're going to give us the privilege of taking this load off of your plate and for us to do this, we want you to be able to trust us. And so that's a big piece of what we do.
All right. Now, you said you didn't want to geek out earlier, but this is a geek out moment. All right. I didn't ask you about this or prep you for this question, but this is about statistics. And, tax credits, I imagine, right? These are incentives. But does the government, when they develop a tax credit, think about how much total revenue, right, that tax credit may represent and put it into a pot? Or there's just an infinite amount because the ROI on these tax credits pay for them? Are these budget neutral? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, Congress absolutely thinks about that. And so when you think about these tax credits, and I've referenced two of them here, but I'll talk specifically about WOTC. So the Work Opportunity Tax Credit is one where we help folks. Part of the process is helping those folks that might be disadvantaged to get a job. Part of the reason why Congress put that into place was to help folks get off of government assistance and onto business payrolls, right? And so for every tax credit dollar, we're saving the government $11, right? So if we can help these folks get jobs, and if we can help them, um, not just have a high turnover job, but actually begin to feel confidence in their work position and build their resume in such a way that they stay on and have an opportunity to support themselves and their families, that helps that helps the individual, it helps the community, it helps the federal government's budget, like all around it's a win. But to kind of geek out a little bit on that, on another side of this is, specifically with that tax credit, what we've seen in the past and what statistics say is that 90-ish, higher than 90% of the tax credit goes to those large organizations that we talked about with more than 250 million of revenue, but they only hire 40% of the people that qualify. And so what that means is that there's this huge gap of people, of businesses that will help with that, revenue neutral, right? Or, like that cost benefit analysis that Congress goes through with the small businesses. So it's just, there's a lot to be said for how much these programs help on multiple levels.
That's amazing. And who said the government doesn't think like venture capital, right? A 1 to 11 return, we'll take that. And I know you guys are leaning in right now. And if you stuck in here so far on the other side of the break, we're going to figure out if this tax credit thing is worth your time. All right, folks, you're listening to the 614 Startups Podcast. We'll be right back after these messages. Support for the 614 Startups Podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. Today's episode is sponsored by the City of Dublin's Division of Economic Development. The City of Dublin provides world-class, tailored business services and resources to ensure the best possible environment for businesses to recruit talent and thrive. Because of this strategic focus and commitment to employer growth, Dublin is the only accredited economic development organization in the state of Ohio. The City of Dublin supports startups and entrepreneurs by offering targeted resources and training programs to grow companies that are financially sustainable, innovative, and committed to creating jobs. Learn how other businesses depend on Dublin. Visit thriveindublinohio.com. 614 Startups Nation, I know you guys are all the way leaned in because now it's time to figure out if this tax credit thing is for you. I mean, obviously it's for everybody, but Terracina is really going to help us get excited about why you should be logging on to Arvo Tech and figuring out, hey, how do I sign up for this thing and save myself some money? All right, Terracina, what should our listeners be thinking about when it comes to tax credit? Are they looking at who's on the payroll? Are they looking at where they're located? Are they looking at what their expenses are? What are some things they should be thinking about right now when it comes to tax credit?
There are different types of tax credits. And so there are some that are retroactively, that you think about the experience that you've had. And then that there are some that are forward looking, saying, what are you expecting and what are you planning to do, right? And so I mentioned two different employment tax credits earlier. You've got the employee retention tax credit that is retroactive. If any of the listeners are a business, were impacted by COVID, like we've all seen the commercials and heard, get emails every day, you could qualify for this tax credit. The reality is you actually might qualify for this tax credit, but you want to make sure that you're doing it right. And so I would say that's one piece of it. How were you impacted during that process? What does that look like? We can dive more deeply into that in our experience if that's helpful. We've actually been working with the IRS on some of our clients and got really positive feedback and different things like that. So we can go there. But really, I think there's also the forward-looking aspect of this. As you consider your hiring, who are you going to be hiring? What are your hiring needs? Look, this is a great time. I think a lot of us, we're a small business ourselves, right? You look at 2024, you begin to think, where are we going and what are the resources as far as people are concerned that we need in order to get where we want to go, right? To accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. That's the time that it really makes sense to begin saying, who is it that I'm going to hire? And is it possible to take a look at some of these folks who, like we've mentioned, may have been passed over or may not have a seat at the table, to give them a chance to qualify, to hire those folks, and then in that process, take advantage of the tax credit, the work opportunity tax credit. So those are just some ways to think about that process, or some ways to consider how do tax credits fit in. There are other tax credits like the R&D tax credit, which our sister company, has done, or other companies out there that we don't personally do, but there are other tax credits out there and that are available. It's just worth taking a look at and talking with someone, saying, here are my business plans. Here's what I do. Do any of these tax credits apply for me? Look, and if you get honest answers saying, yes, you qualify these, then you're not leaving something on the table. And if you don't qualify, at least you go to sleep at night knowing you're not leaving something on the table, that actually maybe you can't fit these tax credits to fit everyone, but a lot of people do qualify for them and they just don't know about it.
Yeah, and listen, the numbers are there, right? If only 40% of the people who are eligible are the tax credits are actually being claimed on them, you could be a company with one of the 60% on your payroll right now. And thinking about end of the year planning, hey, why not go into 2024 having figured out if you qualify for one of these programs that could save you money? And spoken like a true startup founder who is applying a lot of discipline, Terracina, you could do everything because there is a wide variety of tax credits out there, but you're helping your clients focus on the ones that, one, produce the greatest return for them, and also inadvertently or kind of as a byproduct of doing so is also helping society. So that's very exciting. Like all startups, we need to acquire users though. So value proposition is great. We need to get people on the Arvo Tech platform. So how are you thinking about onboarding your users, that user experience, and then what can folks expect once they're on the Arvo Tech platform in terms of getting the tax credits and moving forward from there?
Yeah, so a really big piece of this is working with companies and helping them understand their process. So it's very important for us when we work with us, well, whether it's a small business or a large business, to understand, hey, what are your processes as you think about and hire new individuals? Because it's important to be a part of the conversation, so that when we plug in our platform, which is two-part, there's the screening part, like every individual that comes through the interviews or that you're considering hiring just fills out a real simple questionnaire. Then we can do, like, literally that's all we need to do our job, is that simple questionnaire. We're going to work with state workforce agencies to qualify and say, yes, this person, you're going to get a tax credit off of it. So we make it really simple, and as part of the process that they already have in place. Like I mentioned earlier, if we can get in on a process that they have, like with payroll. So one of the things that we're really excited about is our recent partnership with Gusto. So Gusto is a large payroll organization out of Silicon Valley that we have partnered with. They have over 300,000 small businesses on their platform. And so being able to take these tax credits to those small businesses through a platform that they already use all the time really helps just make it simple for small businesses. And we love working with Gusto. They're not the only ones out there. There are other platforms that businesses go to on a regular basis. And really, that's what we're trying to drive toward. Saying, hey, because we made the choice to build the technology on in a way that easily integrates as and part of other platforms that that these small businesses already use. We really want to be able to make it easy for them to take advantage of the tax credit.
All right, so now I got to talk to you about a business strategy, go-to-market strategy question. There's always the fast way and maybe the not so fast way. Okay. In the work that you're doing, the fast way would be partnership. Because they're already on those platforms. You can acquire a lot of users. And essentially, it would be a feature of Gusto, right? Hey, this is our plan A, plan B, plan C. And with plan C, you get, maybe it'll be even white labeled, you'll get tax credit analysis or something. That's a great strategy. But then there's the not so quick way to acquire users, which is Arvo Tech as its standalone platform. From a go-to-market strategy standpoint, are you leaning on one or the other? If so, why?
Yeah, so when we started the business almost 10 years ago, both Brent and I are local. Both Brent and I are from Columbus. And so our main strategy was to work with local businesses and to get to know what do they need? How does this work? I mean, it was, like I said, we came out of an accounting firm. Brent was a partner in that accounting firm. And so we worked with a lot of those clients. It was really helpful because it helped us understand what do businesses need and what's important to them. How does this actually work in the real world for small businesses? As we've grown, one of the things we've heard as we've grown and as the world has grown as far as technology is concerned. I mean, when we first started doing this, a lot of companies were using paper applications, right? So they weren't even, technology wasn't as much a part of what we so take for granted today, right? So as we've grown, as businesses have changed, we work with applicant tracking systems and saying, hey, we will plug into applicant tracking systems. We plug into, like I mentioned, payroll companies. But we do have a lot of businesses or SMBs even that say, hey, I want to take advantage of this tax credit. What we're able to do in that case, where they're not necessarily coming in from, that fast lead gen model, right? But to say, all right, who is your payroll company? What is your process? So this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, that it's very easy for us to understand their processes and say, okay, everybody uses a payroll company. You use this payroll company, that's fine. Here's the way that we're going to make it really simple for you to implement this process into what you already do. And so that's part of the piece of that we do. Gotcha.
Now, let's say I've identified $1 million in tax credits, right? Arvo Tech has just unlocked, right, this opportunity for me.
Yeah.
What do I then submit to the IRS? Is it at the end of the analysis, I get a form that's
great,
tax ready? What do you deliver to me that then gets me access to those tax credits?
This is another way that we've learned that we want to make it as easy as possible for business owners. So we actually do it all the way through to the actual form. So we actually complete the form. And we say, for some of the tax credits, we say, this is the form, sign here, put in an envelope, this is where you send it to, and we make that process as simple as possible. For others that, like for the work opportunity tax credit, it is an income tax credit. So it's only filed on your annual tax return. So in that case, usually what we're saying is, here's the form, go take it to your tax accountant to put on your tax return to make sure that you take advantage of that. So on both sides, whether it's upfront, making it really easy to gather the data about their job applicants or new hires, whether or not they qualify, we simplify that process. Really, all we need is for your new hires to fill out a form, which again should be part of the onboarding process, or on the back end saying, hey, here's all the tax credit you achieved this year. here's the form that you need in order to take to your tax accountant and put it on the tax return. So we do that. Well, what's the phrase? I don't even know. We do it all. We make sure that it's simple from the beginning all the way to actually filing with the IRS and receiving the check in the mail.
All right, amazing. Now I got to throw you a curveball here. You ready for a curveball?
We'll find out.
All right. Well, is this perfect? Because when you're dealing with the IRS and you claim something and you're not eligible for it, and you get a tax credit and they ultimately find it, nobody wants the big bad IRS coming after them. So how is Arvo Tech thinking about IRS compliance and accuracy of reported data to you? Because any system is only as good as the data that you put in. It's how are you thinking about keeping your small business clients compliant, although they might get super excited about the tax credit opportunity? What are you thinking about there?
So we hear that question more on the employment retention tax credit. And part of the reason we hear that question is because there's a lot of talk right now about what is the IRS doing to make sure there aren't fraudulent claims, right? And it is something that a business owner should consider. Like you said, you don't want the IRS to come back and ask questions about something that you actually don't qualify for. One of the things that we feel very comfortable with the clients with whom we work is that we write up a tax memo and say, this is, I never actually practiced law because I went straight into this kind of consultative, tax credit world. But we did hire tax attorneys and we say, all right, what's the law? What are your facts? Let's make sure that they align. Let's make sure that you actually do get the tax credit and that you do qualify for it, because the IRS obviously not wanting to pay out fraudulent claims. At the same time, I mentioned that we talk with IRS agents with our clients. They also have the attitude of, if your client actually deserves this, we want to pay it, right? Congress put these laws in place for a reason, and they don't want to withhold money where it is due. We have one client that we worked with. They were actually based in California, and we helped them get that tax credit for 2020 and Q1 of 2021. And we said, this is what you qualify for. So we're going to help you do this. They had heard from another company, hey, we qualify for 2 more quarters. Will you help us get this tax credit? And we said, no, we did that analysis. We don't think you qualify. So we don't feel comfortable doing that work. The other company did it, and we got a call from them saying, well, we heard from the IRS on the 2 quarters you didn't help us with. What can we do? And I'm like, well, hopefully you have some sort of argument, but you might actually owe that money back to the IRS, because the reality is that as much as some of these seem really simple or really easy or everybody qualifies, you do want to make sure that you comply with the law. And so that's really an important piece for us, like I was saying earlier, that our clients can trust us, that when we say, hey, we feel confident that you qualify for this tax credit, that they also feel confident that they qualify. And should the IRS come back and ask questions, that they can forward those questions right to us. And we have no problem helping them interact with the IRS, talking to the IRS on their behalf, and just saying, hey, these are the real facts and circumstances and why this company does actually qualify for the credit.
Yeah, so Terracina and Arvo Tech are cooking up a soup to nuts feast.
Thank you. That was the phrase.
But here's the rule with the IRS. Don't be greedy, all right? Don't be greedy. All right, these are programs meant to help small businesses. There's no reason to be excessive. And I love the fact that you brought a real world example into this, because that's one of the temptations. When it feels very much like these are programs where you can go and claim some tax credits for doing the right thing, be very smart about it and go to a company actually is going to keep you compliant as well. All right, folks. I know you guys all want to know, how does Arvo Tech make money? We're going to talk about that after these messages. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by KJK. Tired of the billable hour? KJK has a solution. The KJK GC Advantage program offers businesses comprehensive legal services in the areas of employment, corporate services, real estate, trademark, intellectual property, and estate planning, all for a set monthly fee. KJK serves as their clients' partners in business, not just their lawyers. Along with cost certainty and predictability, the KJK GC Advantage program gives clients peace of mind, knowing their projects will be handled quickly and efficiently, maximizing the return on investment on their legal spend. So don't go it alone, let KJK help. Learn more by visiting kjk.com. 614 Startups, welcome back. Now, this segment right here, that teaser was for the investors in the house, right? You like it, you get it. You're like, hey, should I give her some money? I got to figure out how she makes money. All right, so Terracina, who pays for these services?
Yeah. So we work with business owners and we really care that we are able to help them obtain the dollars that we say that they are due based on these programs. So the way that we have determined to run the business is just, if we get you money, it's a percentage of that tax credit. If we do the work and we find that, whatever the program, either you don't qualify or you're not hiring folks that would qualify you for a tax credit, then you don't owe us any money. And so we do, even our contracts with clients, we don't sign year-long or 2-year-long contracts, because the way that we view our business is that we win your work every day. And so as you benefit from the programs, we benefit, and we try to prove that, and we try to win your work as we do the work alongside you.
All right, so I don't want to gloss over this. With tech in the name, the we, I imagine, that's doing the work is some form of technology. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I feel like every part of this business is a we, like this is us, we created this. And so yes. So there is definitely technology, and we have a fantastic technology team that has built some really great and easy using platform. But at the same time, we also have the people side of this, right? And so we do have folks that help, answer questions, pick up the phone, talk, help communicate things around that have relationships with our clients that really want them to succeed at this. And so the we, yes, is technology, and so I'll put it that way. So we definitely, although you can't scale without the technology, you can't help as many clients without the technology, and it's super important that that's there. It's still, I don't know, maybe it's the founder part of me that just still feels like a connection. I don't know all of our clients anymore, but you still feel that connection of wanting to help customers succeed.
Awesome. All right, so investors, you hear that? That tech is a big part of Arvo Tech, but there's the people component too, which is the foundation of all great companies. All right, so with the partnership at Gusto, opens the door to potentially 300,000 clients. What are some major milestones for Arvo Tech and things that you're really looking to hit over, let's say, the next 12 months, when you're identifying other partnerships? What's going on with Arvo Tech over the next 12 months?
Well, we've been able, I'm very grateful for this. We've been able to grow rapidly over the last few years. And so, excuse me. So we've continued to grow. Really, what we are looking to do over the next few years is exactly what we've been talking about, which is grow our SMB segment through these partnerships. And so that's where, we are hiring key positions in order to take us into that market. We want to make sure that we're able to, like Gusto and like other platforms similar to Gusto, how do we make sure, and what are the key components that have to be in place in order to have those partnerships? So those are our next steps. That's where we're forward looking, is making sure the technology is in place to be able to deliver. to make sure, one of the things that we're really, in a weird way proud of, but we went through the SOC 2 certification, right? Which for small businesses is really important because you have that security in place. And as we become much more growth oriented and we are scaling this, we have to make sure that we are looking at this holistically and that people can trust us, not just our customers, as we've been talking about, but also the platforms that we're going to be integrating with. And so we have put some of those key pieces in place in order to say, hey, we want to grow and be able to serve your customers on your platform and for you to feel comfortable with us. And so that's where we're going.
That's amazing. A singular focus, keep executing, and then making the necessary adjustments as you scale. I really like that. All right, we're going to wrap here. So this is my last question to you. You've been on this journey for some time now, building a company. What advice do you have for your fellow sojourners, early stage fintech founders based in Columbus and beyond who are building disruptive technology? What would you say to them? What's one piece of advice you would give?
I think one of the things that was really helpful for us is just we did start with the local community and really listen to what our customers wanted and how what we knew, our deep expertise in this area, filled a gap that was there for these folks. And so I guess I would, know the customer, right? Understand exactly what problem you're trying to solve. I think sometimes we have in our minds, this is going to change the world and this is great. And then you go out there and you talk to people and they're like, oh, actually, this is part of the reason that drove us to talk with payroll companies, is because as we worked with small businesses, they're like, hey, this is one more thing we have to do on top of everything else. We're like, all right, how can we take out that friction? Oh, if we work with your payroll company, we take out that friction. And so just really continuing to listen to the customer and the end user of what's going to make a difference for them as you're building and as you're iterating makes a huge difference. Really glad for our local, businesses down the street that were willing and are still willing to sit down with me and say, hey, here's my experience. Here's how this is impacting me, and taking that input in, even as we think about what is the next product and how are we going to continue to change the platform to meet needs.
Well, Terracina, thank you so much for spending your very valuable time with me. I know you're super busy like all founders are, but really appreciate you coming on the show to talk about Arvo Tech, tax credits, and the way that businesses are already having a positive impact, but can be rewarded for it. There's money out there. There's credits out there. You just need to go out and get it. All right, I'm going to close with my final word. And here's my final word based on our conversation. I probably won't get it is not a sound business strategy.
Right.
Yeah, maybe in your personal life, you may there won't be any long-term consequences per se, which there usually are. If you want to ask that person out, go ahead and ask them out. So there are implications on the personal side, but definitely not the business side. Business is a game. If you don't play, you can't win. All right. So if you're out there and there's anything out there that potentially could benefit you, whether it's moving into an opportunity zone, whether it's applying for a grant, whether it's going after a tax credit, whether if it's calling on a customer you think it's a little bit too big for you to call on, go ahead and do it. What's the worst that can happen? No. But in the process, you're going to learn and you're going to build confidence. All right, folks, that's another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. Until next time, peace. That's a wrap, folks. You can find this and all our episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review. If you'd like updates sent directly to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. To engage in the 614 Startups community, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 614 Startups on all platforms, and join the conversation. For sponsorship opportunities and collaborations, email us at info@614startups.com.